Welcome to Literacy Mindset, where education leaders from across the country share strategies for improving K-12 instruction today and preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. The stakes are high. Students are facing new academic demands, and educators are navigating an ever-changing educational landscape. Each episode, we explore the most effective literacy initiatives, innovative tools, and strategies that are reshaping education. Whether you're an educator looking to improve student outcomes or passionate about driving meaningful change in schools, the Literacy Mindset brings you the insights and strategies you need to stay ahead. This is where education leadership meets real-world impact.
All right. Well, I'm really excited today on our Literacy Mindset podcast to have our guest, Dr. Jeremy Owoh from Jacksonville, North Pulaski School District in Arkansas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to join you.
Yeah, we're really excited. Obviously, Arkansas, I've mentioned this before when I've had some others from the state. The natural state is near and dear to my heart. My youngest child was born in Arkansas, so I've spent a number of amount of time and thought in the state. So really excited to talk to you today about that. Let's see. Tell us a little bit about you and your pathway to Jacksonville, North Pulaski.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I started off as an English teacher, high school English teacher, and then moved from there to be dean of students, and then a middle school principal, high school principal. And then during the time that I was a high school principal, I got the opportunity to join something that never has happened in the state of Arkansas. They were forming a new school district from an existing school district, Pulaski County Special School District, into Jacksonville North Pulaski School District. And I was able to interview for the assistant superintendent job for curriculum and instruction. I received that, and we took on. So we had a year of transition, and then we took ownership a year later of all the schools here in Jacksonville. And so I was able to do that for 2 years as assistant superintendent. And then during that time, I received a phone call from the Commissioner of Ed here at the State Department in Arkansas. And Commissioner Key asked me if I would accept an appointment as Assistant Commissioner for Educator Effectiveness and Licensure. So I did that for 2 years. I accepted and did that for 2 years. And while I was there, the state took over another district in Arkansas, Pine Bluff School District, and Commissioner Key appointed me as superintendent of schools there. So I did that for 2 years. And then I got the opportunity to come back to Little Rock as deputy superintendent. And then I thought I was going to be there for a while, but then I got a call from Jacksonville school board asking me if I would like to return back to Jacksonville as superintendent. So through those conversations, I accepted the offer, and I've been here as superintendent of schools since 2021.
Wow. That's a great story. There's a lot of interesting things we're going to be able to talk about today. An actual brand new school district forming in the middle of a time when technology is rising and lots of things. And then you take over, in one of the greatest social and crazy experiments in education we've ever had in COVID. So really, really excited to kind of pull on some of those things. Can you tell us a little bit of what is the size now and sort of makeup of Jacksonville as its own school district?
Yeah, so when we first started as a school district, we were about 3,600. We had about 3,600 students.
Okay.
Now we are sitting at about 4,200 in enrollment. And so we are suburban school district right outside of Little Rock School District. We're actually the home of the Little Rock Air Force Base here in Jacksonville. And we serve students pre-K through 12th grade, and really diverse community. We're proud of the community that we serve here in Jacksonville.
Okay, that's great. Well, I want to dive in on a couple of topics. There's some really interesting things we're going to have the chance to discuss on the podcast today. But the first one is you were a high school English teacher,
Yes.
which is awesome and excellent. and gives you a unique perspective on literacy. It's the Literacy Mindset podcast. We talk about literacy. That's where we're going to go, right? So I can't help but ask those that have backgrounds in secondary instruction and literacy in particular. So as an English teacher, how do you now, as a superintendent, kind of leverage what you learned there, but also what the differences are about the learning how to read element of elementary school, and how do you kind of put together sort of a literacy vision or a leadership example of literacy across the district?
Thanks for that question, Jeff. I really believe that it's the benefit for me to have that background as an English teacher because I'm able to have those curriculum and instruction conversations with my team, with my district team, as well as my teachers. And it's just not the English or the literacy conversations, but just what sound instructional practices are. Having taught a core class, I think that's really important to be able to have those meaningful conversations about teaching and learning with our educators, both in the classroom and then those support teams. And so that's definitely been a benefit to have that background, that experience. But also one of the things as a secondary teacher, I've learned even during that time and even more as a leader, educational leader, is that the preparation of our elementary teachers is completely different than secondary. You know,
Right.
I was brought in as a secondary teacher to where students were reading to learn
Right.
versus elementary teachers are taught to teach students how to read so that they can learn. So read to learn. And so that was a aha moment, especially becoming an educational leader, because I gained that perspective when I started to try to support my elementary teachers and elementary teams. And so really it informed and kind of shaped our approach to how we provide instructional delivery at all of our schools. And then when our students get to high school, how do we fill those gaps? And it's definitely a partnership with our elementary teachers and our secondary teachers and making sure they have the opportunity to communicate. And it's a seamless curriculum moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. You talked in our pre-production meeting that you do something a little unique. I feel like because what happens sometimes at the secondary level is you still have students that are in the foundational skills acquisition model, even though they're in seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, but they might need phoneme segmentation. But yet your secondary teachers maybe not have as much instructional practice on that. You've kind of put an elementary school teacher in the secondary buildings, right? So kind of talk us through that.
Yeah, so we strategically decided through our action research component of the curriculum instruction, teaching and learning arm of the district to take individuals, our educators who were trained, professionally trained to teach reading. We took those, our elementary teachers, and put them as reading specialists at the high
Mm,
school level. And
okay.
so our students at the high school level, we realized that they still have gaps in their literacy capacity and skill sets. And so they get their core curriculum, so they stay on grade level in their English courses, but then we have Titan Time, which are intervention blocks where they go and see our reading specialists. And then, so the reading specialists would then fill in those gaps by providing additional interventions and support. I.e., if our students have signs or markers of dyslexia, she provides those supports. Or if there's just other areas in literacy that they're not really grasping or mastering, she also supports and enrich and fills those gaps so that we're filling those gaps, but also keeping our young people on grade level so that they're successful as they move or matriculate through high school, and so that they're prepared and ready to graduate after their 12th grade year.
That's awesome. And I think reading specialists clearly are a common way of approaching intervention or adding support to a building. But I love the way you approached it with those that were specifically skilled in the foundational practices of reading. So, but you also had a unique background yourself in your master's program. You did get the chance to learn both the secondary curriculum and some exposure to the phonological and phoneme side of reading acquisition, right?
Yeah, I did. And so with my master's program, even though my bachelor's program was centered on secondary education, teaching 7th and 12th grade English, through my master's program, I was able to get a master's in secondary education with an emphasis in reading and writing. So I was able to really study at length the science of reading and the science of writing, the rhetoric part of reading and writing, and why those foundational skills are so important. So then as I'm teaching during the day at the high school level, I'm able to incorporate the learning that I was gaining through my graduate program. But it also helped me, that experience and that educational experience helped me to really form my literacy, my support, instructional support that I deliver or give to my educators when I became a principal, and then when I became an assistant superintendent, and then superintendent, because to me, I was able to connect the dots. These are the things that I understood what my secondary teachers were learning and where those gaps were even in their learning as educators, and then the capacity that my elementary teachers had and the importance of really making sure that they were both at the table as we were moving forward with our literacy interventions and even the interventions in math and science as well, the importance of having educators from different levels at the table and really crafting our approach for interventions and supports. And so that was really important to me. And I really, as stated, really understood that point when I took that master's
Right.
course or program of study.
So you got that reinforcement early on.
Yeah.
It has really affected how you've thought about the world. What correlation have you seen in the research that you guys do in the district with literacy on math and science scores? I mean, one of the things that we talk about sometimes, right, is it actually a math or science deficit, or is it a vocabulary deficit? So what have you guys seen in your research?
We've definitely seen through the action research that we've done in our district that literacy impacts the skills impact all subject matters. And
Right.
so if our students, if we're able to strengthen those literacy skills, that capacity, their capacity in literacy, then students are going to grow and achieve in those other areas like science and mathematics. Because if they're not able to read and comprehend, understanding phonics, understanding vocabulary, it's just not going to impact them in English class. It's going to impact them in mathematics. It's going to impact them in science. And so the approach is to really have all of our teachers understand the importance of the science of reading, the pedagogy behind reading and literacy. And we all are teachers of literacy, not just the English teachers, but all of us.
Right.
And as well as the leaders, educational leaders, we have to be teachers of literacy too, because it's how we support our educators. Do they have the high quality instructional material? Are they getting the high quality professional development? How are we growing our teachers, our educators, our support staff to be educators of or teachers of literacy as well? And so definitely those literacy skills are transferable across the school campus, across all subject matters. And it's important that all of us know that and realize that, and then respond to how we deliver instruction based on based on that knowledge.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, you brought up science of reading, so I'm going to go here for just a second. You talked about studying the science of reading in your master's program. So science of reading is sort of an interesting topic because it seems so basic. The science of reading, right? It's like, what is the science of how we learn to read? But tell us a little bit more about, from a pedagogical standpoint or a philosophical standpoint, why is there such a buzz about it? Has been for the last couple of years, and and what is really at the heart of it that you guys try and emphasize in your district?
The importance of science of reading. And why I think the reason why I think it's such a buzz now is because people are now realizing that it's much more than giving a child a book and expecting them to read it or expecting them to write well. It's more so what's causing them not to be able to comprehend what they're reading.
Right.
Why are they not retaining it? And in the fact that every student learns different and differently, and not one student learns the same. And so really approaching, it may be a phonemic awareness issue, it may be a phonics issue, it may be comprehension, reading comprehension, it may be vocabulary. And then even when it comes to vocabulary, how often are our younger students exposed to a variety of vocabulary terms? Even when it comes to even become before they learn how to read, are we or have they been exposed to a variety of vocabulary terms? Have they been able to be read to at a younger age?
Right.
Are they hearing different vocabulary, multiple vocabulary words? And so really getting to the heart of what's causing our literacy gaps, and not just saying that there's a learning deficit or a learning deficiency, but it's more of a instructional or teaching deficiency in meeting the needs of our young people and not doing a one size fits all for every child. So I think the science of reading has been really beneficial. And I know it's been really beneficial because it's caused us, even the additional dyslexia training has caused us to have to look at our students as individual learners and developing interventions that are specific to them and their learning style.
Right.
And that's important. That's what we should be doing in education, period. And not just wait until they get into high school and trying to fix the issues, but doing it when they're learning to read and addressing it then when we start seeing the markers or the indicators at the very beginning of their learning stage or their learning life at their primary and elementary levels.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I do think that some today hear science of reading and they actually hear phonics. It's a phonics program. But I love how you just described. Like there's a complex element to it about lots of foundational elements, and reading is one of those things that is as many things that we as humans learn to do naturally that we can kind of figure out. Reading's not really one of them. It's one of those that you have to be explicitly taught the rules of engagement, and when you do, then you can take it off and run with it. But not a lot of reading just gets figured out on its own, right?
Right.
So, okay, let's go down a technology path just for a minute. Obviously, being in the software side of the world, we like talking about that too. What do you guys do with technology? How do you think about it as it relates to your literacy initiatives? Maybe just walk us through that a little bit.
So we, as a district, have really, and we decided earlier on when we first started the district that it was important that we be ahead of the curve when it comes to technology integration, implementation, and just technology education as it pertains to our young people and our staff members. And even after the pandemic, we realized that we had a lot more work to do to ensure that our educators were able to utilize effective technology tools that would translate to teaching and learning in a positive way with our young people. Because even though we were one-on-one in technology devices, that did not mean, and we saw that all teachers were not created equal, and it means to be able to deliver instruction from a virtual
Via technology.
capacity,
Right.
via remote, and a lot of students were not able to receive and learn
Sure.
remotely or virtually. And so that made us really start thinking outside the box. How do we really educate our young people, educate our staff, support our staff members in moving toward really becoming technology rich when it comes to instructional delivery, instructional support. And so we're a Google Suite
Okay.
district. And so we do a lot of training on just the operation of like Google Classroom, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and how to incorporate what we're learning, those state standards that we're charged to teach our students for them to master into those. So annotation, just a lot of that our literacy students are learning in AP language, how to incorporate those documents where they can annotate, where they can write, and not even just writing but getting them the practice to so that they can find their voice as writers, as readers, has been important. So we do a lot of writing on technology with technology, but we also do it in the old-fashioned way with
Okay.
pen to paper,
Okay.
because it's important that the students are able to be sound writers, fluent writers in both regards, on the computer, but also in handwriting. And so we do a lot of work with that. We also felt that it was important in this day and age of generative AI that we don't shy away from it. And so last year, through the help of Ed.D plus ASCD, we were able to rewrite our technology plan where it's an acceptable use for the latest technologies, current technology, and how students are able to utilize generative AI in an acceptable way in the classroom, and then teachers, how we're going to train and support teachers on how to use and how to teach how to use generative AI. And so really trying to make sure we embrace technology advancement as it comes versus trying to shy away with it and continue to do the same things that we've always been doing, but not preparing young people. So we want to make sure we prepare our young people in all areas, especially in technology, because that's what they're going to be faced with when they leave us after 12th grade year. And so we've been doing a lot of training with over the summer, at the beginning of school, throughout the school year, for our teachers on the latest technology. But most recently, it's been about generative AI and its place in education, in every core classes, and even the extracurricular classes as well.
Right, right. Well, we'll get in maybe to a little bit more on generative AI, but let's stay just broader technology for a second. As you've embraced technology, really run to it, make sure you had devices in students' hands. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've run into with embracing it so actively?
So the biggest challenge is not being completely dependent on technology. For example, we had the entire state, we had a DIS issue, informational system issue, where internet was not available one day during this school year. And we've had some other issues, like if someone's building or digging and they hit a fiber
Oh,
optic
right.
line, that causes us. And so knowing how to pivot, and we heard pivot a lot when during the pandemic, but really learning how to not completely depend
Mm,
on technology, but making sure it's part of the curriculum, make sure it's part of the instruction, but
okay.
not the sole source of instruction or education. And so making sure that it's a balance of technology, but also that um, we're using technology as a aid, as a support, and not letting technology lead us or teach our kids, that we educators remain educators and incorporate several different
Tools.
instructional materials within the instructional setting on a daily basis. And so, but the challenge was making sure our students and our teachers were not completely dependent on those devices
Right.
or on the smart boards or interactive TVs or whatever they're using instructionally in the classroom, that they also incorporate hard copy text. They also continue to use a variety of primary sources, both in print, but also in a virtual capacity too.
Okay. Yeah, this is oftentimes a space where I like to give space to my guests to tell me and my counterparts across the software world, like what are some things that you'd like to see get better of with the software that you do use in there, and maybe not becoming so internet dependent, maybe having offline bridge time or something like that might be one of those. Are there other things that you can think of that would be suggestions that you have for software providers?
I think with providers, and I know providers have a product to sell, they have a service to sell, but I think the conversation of the importance of balance,
Mm,
not forgetting how we learned as young people and the importance and significance of that process, but also having transparent conversations on how those traditional techniques could partner with the innovative technology
right.
and things of that nature. Like I think that in some aspects, there's unrealistic expectation and unintended results or implications when we have our students typing um, on computers all day versus giving them the opportunity to handwrite.
Mm,
And so if we're going to use technology, move to the point where I think it's a good thing students writing with stylus or interactive boards where they're actually practicing handwriting, and that may compose or transpose to typed text on the
right.
computer, but really honing in on those important rote teaching, instructional learning techniques that we benefit from, the soft skills. For example, at one point they took cursive writing out of the classroom, out of standards, and our students didn't know how to sign their name, sign documents, things of that nature. And then you have to realize that we had cursive writing courses. Our students don't have those now.
Right.
And so, but those are some of the soft skills that we can't forget that our students still need to practice. Um, and they may not be important for every aspect of life, but those are still skills that they should have learned or should have the opportunity to learn. And so, really looking at as we advance technology, not losing sight of some of the soft skills that we could possibly in an unintended fashion lose. So, really keeping those in mind as we move forward. So.
No, I like that. That's good and something we need to think about. How do we connect the two? Let us not forget that pen and paper was a pretty impressive invention
Right.
and a technological advancement at some level, right? And so there's value in that too.
And it definitely has its place. I mean, with the challenge that I just mentioned about if technology is not working for you, we cannot let that become a barrier to learning, teaching
Right.
and learning. And so it needs to be one and the same. We need to be able to incorporate both moving forward. So.
With so much technology in your schools, how do you handle the other downside of technology, the distractibility of it, phones and Instagram, that can come up in the middle of the school day? Do you guys have certain policies or frameworks, or how do you guys work on distractions?
It's definitely an educational piece. One of the things that we decided as a district, we did not want to prohibit those types of technology like cell phones and iPads, things of that could be distractors, but instead use those incidents as teachable moments. What's
Okay.
the appropriate use? When do you use it? Like you can go into the middle school, high school, and probably some of our elementary schools if students have them. But more, I know you can see it at our high school that they have this is a phone-free environment, and students respect that.
So
We're not
you don't
saying
have to zip them up in a bag. It's just
right.
I'm not pulling it out because the teacher said don't pull it out.
Right. And we surveyed our teachers, we surveyed our staff, we surveyed our students, and more. And this is surprising to me, but we found out that at our high school that there really wasn't a cell phone issue because the students knew what the expectations were. They were allowed to keep their phones on their person, but they understood in this particular class, this is a phone-free
Yeah.
environment, and so it stays put up. But whereas you may go to this other class and your teacher may allow you to use it for instructional purposes,
Right.
and then you go to the lunchroom, to the cafeteria, and you're able to use it. They're not allowed to talk on it, but they're able to text and play games or whatever they do with it. But it's the acceptable use of it. And then, of course, we don't allow them for safety reasons to connect to our school Wi-Fi. But
Sure.
uh,
For,
but
for, for obvious
we're
reasons, right.
yeah, because one of the things we realized and we wanted to respect is that our students, when they leave us and to real life and to society, they're going to have their phones with them. And they even then they need to know when to use them and when not to use them. And don't let a cell phone distract you from effective communication, human and human, person to person communication. And so really teaching them that acceptable use. And that's what education is about. It's just not about English, math, and science. It's teaching the appropriate behavior and interactions with other people, effective communication. So,
That's excellent. Well, we could probably talk about a lot of things for a lot of time, but I'm cognizant of your time and I want to make sure we give it the right space here. So I'm going to ask you as a final question here, the chance to pull out your crystal ball and give us a little insight into what you see. Obviously, you work closely with ISTE and ACD, and so you think a lot about technology. You've embraced technology in your schools. You're talking about acceptable use policies, all of the right things. What do you see 5, 10 years from now on this that might be a trend today that you're like, oh yeah, that's going to be strong, alive, and well, or something that you hope doesn't manifest itself in 5 years? Maybe just walk us through a little bit of the Dr. Owoh
yeah.
crystal ball.
So Jeff, I appreciate you bringing up ISTE-ASCD because that's been a fortunate experience to really be a part of because I've been able to see the advancement of technology, instructional technology, and what's available for student learners, but also educators. And when we merged ASCD with ISTE, it became the best of both worlds. You have the curriculum instruction and leadership side, and then the ed tech side. And so for me, 5 to 10 years now, I think that's going to strengthen the support that we give
Okay.
educators with what we need and how we serve and teach our young people. Technology isn't going away. Innovative technology is going to still continue to advance. And so I really see and hope that we continue as educators incorporate that in innovative technology and strengthen our technology. I mean, our instructional platform because I really feel like generative AI has a special place in education, and it will cut down, lessen the amount of time we spend on certain things. I think
Okay.
it will shape the way education is and the way we deliver it. It's not going to replace educators, but it's just going to change the way we do things. And I think it's going to be for the best. I think it's going to really give us more time to really apply more meaningful and impactful energy in certain areas and be able to have students and teachers use generative AI for those um, lesser or those things that could be inundating but not so important to the process. For example, when learning how to write research papers, there's no reason why I cannot use um, generative AI to be able to do a argument essay or use it to write an outline or to help me do my pre-writing, things and generate ideas or even in an art class, use AI tools to compare and contrast a hand written or hand drawn element versus a generative AI picture and compare and contrast. I think we're going to utilize
Okay.
technology in these next 5, 10 years and beyond to really enhance our educational delivery and how we learn, both as students and adults. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what the future holds, and it's going to allow us to better prepare our young people because jobs are going to be different. The way we operate on jobs, with innovative technology advancements, that's going to change, and our students need to be prepared for that and not be behind the curve when they're ready to go into those advanced courses in college or straight into the workforce. And it's up to us to make sure that they're prepared for those. And so I definitely see a major change in education, which is a positive thing. I'm excited and I'm here for it. So.
All right. Well, I love that. I do think that there is a lot of excitement around it too. Clearly, generative AI is transformative for us, for our space, for all the things that we look to do. And so, love hearing you talk about it. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And I look forward to catching up again in the future.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe to Literacy Mindset. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for updates, resources, and to join the conversation. Have a topic you'd like us to explore? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.